Everybody, shut the hell up. There's a lot that I gotta get on my chest right now. It's a lot. Shut up. Alright? A lot that I gotta get on my chest.
Boys and lefty. Okay. Wait. I never find anything about Dr. Ball. They don't want to Dr. Ball right here. I mean, he's taking a little bit too far and something, but
But this particular situation, out of many situations that I didn't hate, I'm going to have to hate until further notice.
I ain't scared of you motherfuckers.
I mix what I like, what I like. I mix what I like is exactly where you want and need to be. I mix what I like, organic, vegan, soul food from your immediate diet. Live healthy. Live healthy. I mix what I like, what I
we're
like.
here on I Mix What I Like. You may check us out on imixwhatilike.org, where you can see all these other shows and what my daddy likes and other cool things.
Hey, hey, hey. What's up, world? Welcome to another Saturday night live right here on I Mix What I Like. I'm Jared Ball, happy to be your host. Looking forward to having a little bit of fun, cover a couple things, get into a couple things. Please do all the things, hit the buttons, do all the whatever. You already know. And I'm glad you are born liberated. Welcome. The top thought leader? No.
The courteous top thought leader.
No. That's definitely reserved. But yeah, let's a little bit of right, Saturday supper live. Saturday slightly after a winter sunset live. Because in the summer it won't even be dark. Saturday dusk live. So okay, I got a couple things that I thought we could check out, and one of them, admittedly, is start with a little bit of the silliness, a little bit of silly, because I mentioned it earlier. Big shout out to Renee and Saturdays with Renee. I hope you all got a chance to watch the show earlier today. And I think, did it come up just before? Were we on air when it came up? But maybe it was off air. The trade. Yeah, we're gonna get there. We're gonna get to the Kanye crash out. But I now I can't remember where it came up, but the LucaDoncic trade. So I don't watch the NBA anymore. I don't watch much of anything anymore sports wise. But I do watch coverage of them in the same way I don't watch a lot of commercial media, left, so-called liberal or right wing, but I like to watch the coverage of them, the discussion of them. We're going to get to some of that later as well. But this trade, Luka for Anthony Davis, has shook up the world. But I did find a video that had an interesting take on it that certainly taps into some of my biases. So I wouldn't go so far as to co-sign it, but it was a very interesting discussion of what might be actually behind it. And I did mention it earlier on Renee's show, where we were talking about Mark Cuban, the former owner. Now he owns 27% and change. But he, but in talking about the shifting business model in professional sports, sort of piqued my interest a little bit. And so let me just play a little bit of here and you get an idea and then
first of all, I said to myself, no players was involved in this.
And I really like this point that they start with Dwayne Wade. So this point about that he's about to make here about there being no players involved. And but anyway,
decision. This was billionaire business. Yeah. The last 12 to 15 years, the players have decided, right, what we want to do. This was the owners, the governors, the billionaires deciding what they want to do. And so I looked at the business of the game. I said, one of the biggest international stars now at 25 years old, gets traded to the Los Angeles Lakers. The biggest market in the world for sports is the Lakers.
I called somebody yesterday who has known Nico Harrison, the GM who made the deal, the Mavericks GM. And I said, what happened? And this person said, this came from above and beyond the general manager. And when you only get one first round pick back, that is somebody in ownership telling you, just make the deal. That is pressure from upstairs.
Additionally, even though the news around this will tell you that the Mavericks came up with this idea on their own, the Mavs approached us, the Lakers will say. They wanted to get rid of Luka. We had no idea. This is a crazy thing. We jumped on it. But if you look back a little bit, that doesn't add up with some leaks from months and months and months ago. People have been talking about the Lakers' plan to steal Luka for months, even years. In 2023, we're talking about this potential trade. Amir Blumenfeld, who has a basketball podcast, pictured here with me, by the way, in 2021 said, what is it about Luka to the Lakers that just feels inevitable? There's been leaks. They've been targeting Luka as the face of their franchise for a while. They've known this is the way to grow their mass market appeal for the next 10 years. Lakers always seem to end up with a big star, which helps the NBA. And they reportedly had their sights set on LucaDoncic for a while to replace LeBron. But all of these reports ended with the same phrase. I mean, these are rumors and they're funny, but it's very unlikely they'd ever be able to get him. Now look where we find us now. Additionally, the only two people outside of the billionaire casino owners in Vegas who knew about this trade were the GM of the Lakers, Rob Pelinka, and the GM of the Mavericks, Nico Harrison. And these guys are really old friends. This wasn't a bidding war. These are two really old, really connected.
All right. So I'll put the link in the show description for you to see more. I just wanted to give a little bit of where this video goes and what I liked about it. So one, earlier in the video, as I summarized earlier, Mark Cuban, the former full owner, now partial owner of the Dallas Mavericks, the team that just traded Luka, was saying that he had to get out because he couldn't keep up with the shifting business model where the billionaires who now own most of the teams are billionaires that are coming from different sectors of the economy. Whereas when Mark Cuban got in the early 2000s, the league was dominated by the tech bros, sort of the tech, new billionaires. And now the league needs to shift because as this video talked about, ratings have been dropping, finals ratings have been dropping, and the league is looking for ways to expand. So one of the ways to do it is to not just have a team in a city, but to have a team in a city that is connected to hotels, to casinos, which is, now that all this stuff is legal, gambling is driving so much of the business that they, so you just having the old style of a traditional owner who puts his or her own money, family money into it or whatever, and owning the team, those days are over. You need to be connected to, again, a Vegas style setting. So then that was one interesting point. The other part was the part that Dwayne Wade was seen there point that he was there making. And my spin on it is that this is the billionaire ownership, this new billionaire ownership saying, okay, all this stuff that's been going on these last 10, 15 years, 20 years, where players are determining where they're going to play and holding teams hostage and doing all that, those days are done. So this was a reassertion of authority by having such a big time trade with so little people apparently aware of what was happening, including the players themselves. That this was a reassertion of power, because I used to feel this way when it happened initially. One of the few things that I like about what LeBron, I'm just biased against. There's no real. Politically, he's as much of a mess as anybody, but whatever. But one of the things I always appreciated about what he was doing that was bothering so many people was saying, I'm going to be in control and I'm going to help players take control over where we end up playing. I like that. We don't need GMs and owners, another term I don't even like, telling us where we could play. So I was like, yeah, players get together, determine, hey, we want to play, I was like, I'm with that. I'm with that part of it. So this was that. The point that the video was just making there, Luka is an international star who's only 25 years old, apparently, who now is in the biggest market or one of the biggest markets in the world, in LA. It makes sense. Why would why, in terms of ownership, why would we want to leave him in Dallas if you're running the NBA? It's a waste. So I just thought those things were interesting. That was, so when people are out here, why would it happen? Why would they do that? Why, I like some of those reasons. Exactly. He can be used up for a long time. Exactly. LeBron is about to be out of here. And who's gonna market the league? I don't know. So I'm not up on the players. I'm not up on the league enough to know who who would be competing for that. But apparently Luka is that guy. And to have a European white superstar, yeah. No, we're live. We're live. Welcome. Please do like, share, subscribe. Invite people to join you. We're hanging out for a little bit on this Saturday dusk live. So all right. So that was that. So all right, so I did as far as the Kanye story, I don't have much other than I just did what I saw someone else do in talking about him. And I'll put the link in the show description to my attempt to bring some seriousness to him the last time he did this. But this is just, I'm just going to his Twitter feed. I'm not sure why this isn't showing up. Whatever this is right here. Let me see. I don't know what this is. I don't know what's going on here. Maybe it's, I don't know if it's because it knows I'm broadcasting. I don't know what they're doing. But this is just, he's just been crashing out. You know, this is just, you know, why do broke tell me what to do, but I never tell them what to do? Is there something about being broke that makes them feel powerful? He's, you know, retweeting. I'm not playing none of this, but he's retweeting, you know, these notorious conservative right wingers. Talking about going on with Aiden Ross. The Jews threatened to take your children away. That happened to me on death. You know, he's just, so it's another anti-Jew thing. And, you know, my thing is, you know, he's saluting and supporting Elon Musk and the Heil thing. Again, talking about broke people. Hanging with the Saudi prince. I mean, you know, so like, you know, I don't mean to make light of it. I know that there are people probably making some very serious commentary and something thoughtful. But why do regular whites hate Jews so much? So part of one, you know, when I was trying to be more thoughtful about it, part of what I was trying to say is that if we wanted to have serious discussions about Jews and and black people, we can have them. There are people capable of doing this in a meaningful way. And why people keep, you know, pointing to athletes and entertainers, not that they are not capable of having a meaningful conversation, but they're clearly not training for it, preparing for it, studying for it. It's not the centerpiece of their lives as it would be for others. Their time and energy and expertise is directed elsewhere. So why would we go to them as opposed to people who are journalists, activists, scholars, you know, media makers, whatever, in these communities? But so that's what he's been on. Now, I would love, and I did on my channel for patrons and members, I did this, you know, I tried to raise some of these questions around this point about, I don't think we have an analysis of Jews. And this continues to lead to so many different problems, including this one. And what Kanye is saying is, in fact, reflective of what a lot of people in a lot of different communities think and are encouraged to believe. And there are, I think, and the point I was trying to make in my video about the analysis of Jews is that I think you can make a sound, historically based, materially based, logically based explanation of how we ended up where we are. It just takes some time and some nuance and some study and maybe a skill set that I don't have, a level of knowledge I don't have to convey it properly. But I've seen it done. I've been in spaces where it's been done. I've seen others do it. I think I've participated in it myself a little bit, and it can be done. The short answers to why so many people hate Jews is, I think, starts with the mythologies centered around the Bible. And I did just watch, again, this is one of my contradictions. I do watch, not as often, certainly before the Al-Aqsa flood, but as I did before that, but because he is a rabid Zionist, he lives in Israel, Rabbi Tovia Singer. I do watch his videos because his analysis and his breakdown and his criticism of biblical history is fascinating to me. And I do enjoy watching him do that. But I do have to turn it off if he starts to speak about anything politically, because it's really atrocious. He's a rabid Zionist. But when he's breaking down the problems with the Bible and he's explaining how what you read in the so-called New Testament is a complete mistranslation of what is actually in the so-called Old Testament in Hebrew, it's very revealing. And added when I engage that with a lot of this other atheist debates, media, putting it all together, Heaves even just said this past week the point that I'm taking a long time to get to, which is that and he points specifically to the Christian church, like part of his Tovia Singer's call is to combat Christian missionaries who are specifically targeting Jews for conversion to Christianity. He wants to, of course, stop that. But he also wants to bring everyone to Judaism, because he thinks that the Messiah will one day come and all that, So he believes. But all that to say, he does put it on the Christian church that propagates the false history, this is my language now, the non-history, the mythology around Jesus, his resurrection, and of course his crucifixion being largely at the hand of Jews. So, and I agree that a lot of it starts with that. It gets a lot more complicated, obviously, a lot more nuanced, and I am certainly not here or ever anywhere to suggest that anyone vis-a-vis the majority population of the world is beholden to or owes those from the European community much of anything. But if we do want to understand the history, I do think we need to get more nuanced and more willing to study, as Arturo Schomburg once told John Henrik Clarke, the history of those who would want to write us out of history. And I do think we, as Kwame Ture used to encourage, we don't read about Zionism, we don't study the history, and we get caught up in a lot of mythology that then gets easily regurgitated. And then because the existing media environment is not suited to honest, actual discussions of politics, certainly the issues around Jews or anyone else, we get very little. Very, very few have very little understanding about any of it. So yeah, Tovia Singer is his name. And again, and honestly, I'll ask you all, if you all can find, and I've actually looked and have not found any, but if you all are aware of anyone who does what he does in terms of bringing the Hebrew original to the scriptures, I would appreciate if I could find someone who was not as much a believer, number one, or certainly such a. I mean, he is full on with the Zionist project, full on with Netanyahu and all of that. But I do like his breakdowns, and it's wild. And what people are reading in the New Testament is not only, from my vantage point as someone hostile to these religions, it's not only just a mess historically and morally, ethically, politically. It's a mess in terms of what it claims to be saying it is doing in relationship to the so-called Old Testament or the Hebrew Bible, or the Tanakh, as he calls it. So, first of all, not only do they believe that the Jews killed Jesus, they certainly don't believe that Jesus was mythical, as you've said here. And at this point, I think, no, I believe that. That's the camp I'm in. And even if one Jew did, should all Jews pay for the way again, to me, it is logical. If you believe Jesus was your savior, and if you believe that he is killed because of the Jews of the day, it would be very easy to maintain a certain hostility. I think it would be. And then when it's being played upon, and I didn't grow up in any church, so when I watch these channels that talk about people who did, and they talk about what's really being taught in churches and taught in seminaries, and when I read a little bit of, actually I read a good portion of The Family, and then when I watched the series of The Family, and these WASPs, who I think are really benefiting from all this hyper focus on Jews. Because I just keep thinking it's funny that these people who have all the armies and the public policy and the land and the intelligence communities, how they seem to just get no attention. I don't see any Twitter rants of that caliber directed at them. And I'm like, but the more I understand about how they teach in the family, they reduce the Bible to a book about this thick with the title Jesus, and it's just a watered down, narrow version of what they say Jesus was teaching, just for the purpose of spreading their very capitalist, colonial version of white dominance through the church. Like when the more I learn about what they're being taught, I'm surprised. I'm actually surprised it's not more violent yet. So a lot of people, when they see what's happening now in the so-called Middle East and the genocide over there, a lot of people quietly, I think, consciously or not, but I think a lot of it is conscious, are saying, I'm not that bothered at the end of the day, because this is prophecy. So I don't know. Yo, what's up, Jared? And Renee. Oh, what's up? So please, I'm glad I'm being reminded of this. Please go catch up with Millennials Are Killing Capitalism as well as everything else. Yeah, they are. The show today was fantastic. I got to go back and actually finish it. I got called away, and so yeah. Tafari's in the building. What's up, good people? So yeah, that's my very condensed version of that, and I'm happy at some point to gather with folks, have a couple drinks, and to talk about that endlessly. All right, I do just want to share this because so when I mentioned a little while ago the M. Night Shyamalan twist that got me promoted to full professor, that one of the things that I was told directly has helped save me was somewhat of having this public intellectual life. So I know sometimes there's a lot to be said critically about people who don't mind being in front of a camera, but sometimes, and it's odd, because like it's funny because I was thinking about it, like some people feel necessary to either stay off camera or to not be on camera at all to protect their job. In some ways, the reverse is also true, that being on camera can sometimes protect you. So with that, I just wanted to share that I'm very happy I did get invited recently to the Black Studies podcast hosted by colleagues at the University of Maryland. I'll put the link in the chat if you want to hear the history of me becoming part of getting into Black Studies, how I ended up there. A lot of you probably would have already heard some of these stories, but I just wanted to put that out there. Dr. CBS, Dr. Layla Brown, Dr. Scott Brown have all been on there. Who else? There's some others that we would know who have all been on there as well. But it was an honor to be invited to it. Just it's always nice to get some recognition from the field that I'm admittedly on the outskirts of. So, but please feel free to check that out. I'll make sure the link is in the show description. Probably about later, a little bit later. All right, so that was on the list. So what else? All right, so a little bit of bad news. I don't know if you all saw this, but I talked about it a little while ago. I reached out I wonder if this would change his interest in doing an interview. Could there be a silver lining to this bad news? Not that I understand the contradiction given Vernon philosophy and all of that. So maybe this is good. Maybe this is ultimately good. But Netflix has canceled the release of the 6-part Prince documentary directed by Ezra Edelman, the maker of OJ Made in America, which I still think is the best commercial media documentary on race and media in the United States. Representatives for Prince's estate had claimed it was filled with dramatic factual inaccuracies and sensationalized renderings. So, and again, with anybody other than Ezra, Black Jews, I might agree that they should have been careful, but I think Ezra is very dope. And so I'm sorry that we're not going to get to see that because it sounded fascinating. So, oh damn! I see there's something I did now. All right. So that was that. That's an interesting point. Look for a torrent. Okay. All right. I wouldn't be mad at that if it just. Boop, 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 boop. See, that's the worst part about being bald. I might have to maybe I'll just go get a shape up for my beard. Need an excuse. All right, so something else so I mentioned on Renee's show earlier, and I'll have more in the coming weeks and months to say about this, but actually, what should I say? Well, there's going to be some testimony and some public statements coming out soon regarding efforts here in Maryland to collectively bargain on behalf of faculty and grad student workers. Hold up, that's not true. Why wouldn't I be in a barbershop? I'm in I'm occasionally in a barbershop, and you know, there was a good portion of my life where barbershops were routine. So I don't know why can't it be? Why? But yeah, so there's going to be more coming out on this collective bargaining effort. And I, again, you know, admittedly, not all of us as academics are as politically radical as we should be. We don't always produce the work we should produce. We have many flaws and contradictions, but there are plenty of truly good people trying to do work that they are prevented from doing because of these institutions. And these institutions are not, they are very much part of a capitalist and colonial structure. So, and here in Maryland, we are not allowed to legally collectively bargain, and it is wreaking havoc, I think, on first of all, the quality of education students get, never mind the careers of individual faculty, and never mind the careers of faculty whose politics might be left of genocide. like that broad. Speaking of which, salute to Poncho. I do. I don't. All the grooming. Yeah. Yeah. But now that I've been called out, I'm gonna have to go back. I'm gonna have to go back to the. Oh no, I don't use a straight razor though. No, I don't do straight razor head shaves. No. I don't like that. I don't like the feel of it. But yeah, so there should be more to come on that. Just wanted to share a little bit about that. All right, so actually, should I do that first? Now we're gonna, a little bit later, I'm gonna share a portion of a discussion that was had for the 20th anniversary of the Decipher hip-hop block up the road here in Washington, D.C. It was kind of a legendary moment. So, but I'm going to save that for a little bit later, get through some more, a little bit more of some stuff here. So I did say earlier on Renee's show that I was going to get into this question of techno-feudalism, but I'm not. I'm not tonight. I'm going to have to come back to that. Maybe for Monday's show. Because there was a couple things I wanted to finish before that I didn't get to today, but before I come back to that. But there are some silly things happening in my little world of buying power that I thought we could check out. And the note I made to myself here says that DEI is triggering the black bourgeoisie. They are having a slight bit of a crisis moment here. We talked a little bit about it the other day with Tabitha Brown. And as the story says here, black businesses in DC push back against DEI rollbacks at retailers like Walmart and Target. We talked about it with Renee and the a little bit today, but a week ago today, when she was really breaking down the whole thing about Target and to what extent DEI benefited black people. And I think it was assessed that Target, as it pertained to Target, it was like a 3% difference of so-called minority engagement on or black specifically participation with the leadership or something like that. It was something minuscule, but in fact, I think as she showed, things had gotten worse outside of the leadership of Target for overall black employment. It had gotten worse with the DEI stuff. But then we see, Al Sharpton doing his buy-in and then as Renee showed a little bit more today, the National Action Network sort of hustle, as it seems to me, of getting money out of corporations. But oh wait, where's my notes at? Did I not have any notes on this? Anyway, black DMV residents are taking back their buying power in response to mega retailers scaling back DEI efforts. Black-owned businesses in the DMV, and for those not in the area, that's the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area, are pushing back against mega retailers that have scaled back diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. Locals are turning to DEI Watch, a newly launched website by Alexandria, Virginia-based entrepreneur Deshauna Spencer. The website tracks corporate accountability on DEI initiatives and helps consumers make informed decisions about which brands to support or boycott. Spencer, the founder of the black storytelling streaming platform Quilly TV, launched DEI to promote transparency around businesses' stances on inclusion efforts and empower consumers to make informed purchasing decisions. Spencer isn't calling for boycotts of certain businesses, but if you want to, we wanted to create a platform that's accurate as possible, she told Axios. So it tells you if companies either should be dismantled for companies that scaled back DEI efforts, committed for those maintaining their efforts, and funded those who funded Trump's White House bid. So apparently this website helps call out businesses that have not been as public as Target, who have been rolling back their DEI initiatives. But again, the goal is to ultimately get support back to black businesses, other initiatives by black business owners in the DMV, area included tech entrepreneur Ayanna Smith's Celebrate DC platform, which highlights local neighborhoods and small businesses in honor of Black History Month. Smith is calling on the community to support Black-owned businesses by sharing them on social media and using platforms like official Black Wall Street, Naspera, We Buy Black, and Black-owned business directories to discover and support these brands. So now I'm actually remembering why I wanted to start with that story. So I would just encourage people to check the clip that I reposted talking about marketing Black History Month. It's a nice reminder of how Black History Month has been turned into an effort by the Black capitalist class to promote itself and to promote itself as having done something revolutionary. Exactly. We go back to the Black circle on social media. Yeah. And it's fascinating to see how marketers and Black businesses have sort of coalesced. And I was reminded of that, putting that clip back, that Black History Month has just become a way, in many ways, to promote this mythology around the efficacy of the Black entrepreneurial community to benefit the Black community. All right, so just moving a little bit along with that, I had to go to the archive to get the Forbes story from yesterday. From Snoop's cookbook to DJ Mustard's mustard, Ryan Ford is leveraging diversity to drive culture. Again, this is just another, hey, it's Black History Month. We're Black entrepreneurs. You should buy some Black-owned products or some products that do business with Black entrepreneurs. But what I just wanted to share here very quickly, especially after, again, today's show with Renee, which we are going to come back to actually in just a moment. Oh, wow. I'm over here thinking I'm already sharing the screen. Sorry about that. This is the story. From Snoop's cookbook to DJ Mustard's mustard, Ryan Ford is leveraging diversity to drive culture. All right. And as I said, it's, DJ Mustard is Heinz' first ever chief mustard officer. His first order of business, I don't even know what it's supposed to say, but the point is, drop a beat. I don't know. But so in other words, the point is, hey, we got Black people who own stuff. We got Black people who are doing stuff, marketing stuff they don't own. That's what Black History Month is all about. Get busy. Mr. Ford spends a significant amount of time working directly with CEOs and CMOs of Fortune 500 companies who seek, or at least are curious about, consultation on how to prepare for the future and to help unlock the cultural blind spot so many companies are addressing today. How big is the blind spot? Over $6 trillion domestically and $16 trillion globally. It's estimated that Black American spending power sits between $1.4 and $1.8 trillion annually, a powerful economic bloc that is comparable to the gross domestic products of Mexico, Canada, Italy. Latinos' purchasing power is in the U.S. reached $3.4 trillion in 2021 and grew over 2 times faster than non-Latino counterparts. Asian Americans message, as we discussed today on Renee's show, come in with $1.3 trillion in buying power and have a median household income of $104,646, well above the average U.S. income. This demographic has grown 314% over the past 2 decades, the fastest growing of all ethnicity groups. And just quickly, if you click these links, for where, because you might think if you're just passing by that these are links to data and research. You just go to Blavity making the same claim. This is so it's so wild how that they're able to continuously get away. They talk about the circulating black dollar. They should be talking about how often or how quick or how long black economic myths circulate in the black community. Because here they're just quoting Blavity, who's and I've done this before, and this is the same thing, who's quoting CNBC. And then if you click that one, you go, I mean, it's not like, I'm not even doing a Renee spreadsheet. You know what I'm saying? Then you go to a CNBC story that, let's just speed this part up a little bit here, that says buying power is 1.4, and there it is, the Selling Center. All right. So this is just several years removed, because a 2025 story making the claim about buying power ends up quoting secondhand a story that came out in 2020 in CNBC. All of it pointing back to the Selling Center. How seriously though, like seriously, how does, and then nobody gets the Selling Center reports. How does this, and then look, and my point is this, I get it. I may find it hard to understand how people would not like your boy, but okay, you don't want to deal with Jared, just do what I'm just doing there. Click, click, click. Selling Center. What does the Selling Center say? How did they do their numbers? You can do it. I'm no secret genius. Go through my footnotes. Contact the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Read their book. Interview the dude that I forgot his name, no disrespect, but he's named in the book. Go call him up. He'll take your call. Again, he wasn't doing Jared some special favor. Oh, Jared's calling the Bureau of Labor Statistics. We got to take that call. No, call him. And he'll tell you the same thing he told me. This guy, we don't know what the Selling Center is doing. We don't know what they're doing. If I may paraphrase. I mean, it is wild to me to watch. And then why is it so wild? And we know they're not going to do what we saw happen earlier. So if I can just, I'm going to play, let's see, just a couple of minutes from today's show on Renee. And in, I think it's like 4 minutes, we get, maybe it's a little longer than that, but I was so happy again today to not only get to read, but to get to talk with Sudip and Renee about this, because as I just showed you, we see again not only the bad methodology, all going back to the Selling Center with their estimates and projections, all of it going back to Nielsen, which also goes back to Selling Center, or someone else might go to McKinsey, who does the exact same methodology, even without citing Selig. They just recreate the method and come up with the same nonsensical myths. But then we're constantly being told to be like the Asians, to be like the Jews. And yet, and wait till I show you wait till it gets worse. Wait till I show you, you know what? Let's do the worst first. Let's do the worst first. Let me save that. Let's do the worst first, because it gets worse. But wait, it gets worse. Oh my goodness. And I don't even know how long we can tolerate this. But I gotta play. And forgive me again. I'm really bad at recording who told me about this. Oh man. All right. So again, I don't have it in there yet, but I promise by the end of tonight or tomorrow morning at the latest, all the links that I'm using tonight will be in the show description. So I just didn't get to it before the show. But I was sent this Boyce Watkins tweet of a show that he does, or that is apparently on his network, or that he's teamed up with. I don't know. He certainly agrees with them. And it is a discussion by FlyNubianMoney.com, a group of black. Let me just play a little bit at the beginning so they can introduce themselves. Then I'm gonna come back. This, and I don't even like. I don't even mean to be. Honestly, I don't know how to do this without. Let me just play. Let's just start.
What's up, everybody? Welcome on into Fly Nubian Money. I got my girls here today. We got a great topic to talk about, and I am ready to get started. How you guys doing today, ladies? I love y'all.
Wow.
In real life. Yes, I love it. Y'all ready? Y'all ready to engage and have a good time and have a good
So when I watched
so
this privately, I had it on 2x speed.
Right,
so this might
go.
be more even
All right,
more
y'all.
brutal
Today we are talking about
for me
something that I think affects every single one of us. It's the money that we spend. Black people. We just discovered, because we've been saying 1.5, then we were saying 1.7, but we just learned that in 2025, Black America has over $2 trillion in buying power. Yet, only 2% of that money stays in our community.
All right. So there's the premise. I don't think I have the patience to watch this. So I don't want you to take my word for it. Okay. All of these women are introduced as businesswomen, professors, economic experts. I don't know where their credentials are. I didn't take the time. This is, again, not a Renee level spreadsheet analysis or anything like that. This is just the basic claim. But we see right out the gate, they make a claim that I do not want you to take my word for, that I did not watch all the way to the end, but I watched maybe 3/4 or more. They never offer a claim. They never offer a source for that claim. They also never offer a source for the claim of the $2 trillion buying power. I've showed you elsewhere previously where that's coming from. Yet again, the Selig Center, but they don't even acknowledge that. The Selig Center, in their reports, do not make any claims about circulating dollars, because no economist makes those claims. And I'm going to come back to that point. They don't make any claims about wealth, spending habits, none of that. They only make the claim that is the Selig Center, that are based on estimates and projections of what buying power is, so they can help corporations organize their ad revenue. All right. They're not even claiming to make an assessment. That is, Selig is not even claiming to make an assessment of the overall condition of Black people. All right. The part that I wanted to skip ahead to, for me, summarizes the nightmare of this situation. All right. Now, again, do not take my word for it. I will provide the link. I invite anyone to review this beyond and put it in the comments. Let me know where I've messed up, how I've misrepresented. But I just want you to watch this right here.
Oh, there's nobody Black that has an Apple store, but if there was, I would buy my computer from them. So I think it comes down to making sure that we have more Black hands attached to the transactions and to the moves that we're making.
Sorry, the question she's being answered, the question she's responding to is, what do we do? You know, we got this $2 trillion. We don't circulate it like other communities. We don't, so what's wrong with us? is again what she was asked.
Making. I need some deodorant right now, today. I need some soap today. And I pulled up into Walmart and I was like, oh God, I can't go into Walmart. What am I going to do? I gotta brush my teeth. And so I'm
and by the way, you should have if anything, you should have been boycotting Walmart long before anything regarding this DEI. Walmart, going back from where I became aware of them in the mid to late 90s, has been destroying labor and communities for a long time, producing, I believe, 7 of the top richest people in this country with the Walton family, who fund the most conservative right-wing think tank. So if anything, but long before DEI, but whatever.
I didn't even have a chance to figure it out because I'm sitting here with you guys, but this is a good time.
And you talking and your breasting? Oh my God, girl.
Oh, wait a minute. I brushed today. I did brush today.
I brushed my teeth today. Deodorant. I was like, wait a minute, Dr. Lene.
No, I'm getting low. I got
you. I'm with you.
I'm good today. I'm good today. Got my perfume on. I'm smelling good, looking good, all the things. But I'm dangerously low. And so I got to figure out, where am I going to get me some toothpaste? Where am I going to get me these things? Because I know that they're out there. We're comfortable in our lives. And it's easy to run up the street to the Caucasian store. It's easy because it's what's near us, is what's around us. It's more difficult to go out of our way to find the Black store. It's more difficult to go out of our way to find the Black nail tech. It's more difficult to go out of our way to find these Black things, but they are out there and they are available, but they're not as convenient. It's more convenient to do what's easily accessible. So in order for us to change this, we're going to have to get uncomfortable. And we're going to have to go out of our way.
I'm so glad you said that, because that was my thought. That's my why. So one is network.
Try to do is make sure there's a Black hand tied to my transaction.
Let's go back to why. Why are we spending like that?
Operators making sure that there's a Black hand tied to every transaction, right?
Wait a minute.
So one of the issues are we don't own Apple. We don't have our own insurance company. We don't have.
Wait a minute.
Our own directory. Our own mental health.
Oh wait, yeah, that was where I was going to stop it. Hold on. But she says,
myth. So 28 days.
Oh, here we go.
Exactly what you had asked.
Here we
get the facts on what are other people spending with their communities? How much, what percentage are white people spending with white people? What percentage are Asians and Hispanics and all the rest of them? How are they spending money? I know how long the money stays in their community. So it begs to understand that they spend a lot more than us. Because if you look at 6 hours as opposed to 20 days or 30 days or 17 days,
circulating dollar mythology,
a hell of a big difference. But Dr. Lene, let's go back to why. Why are we spending like this?
Well, I did ask Chatty Cathy, my client calls ChatGPT Chadwick. So I did ask Chad.
So I this is what I wanted to show. All right. These are the experts that were brought on. Okay. And I want to just acknowledge the methodology here. She just said, when asked, why do we spend the way we spend, after repeating this mythology? Oh my God. What's up, 2 Black? Exactly. And 2 Black, again, has already debunked all of this, right? But these are the experts. And she says, I'm checking with ChatGPT. Why do we spend, and listen to what she says.
But I didn't ask him exactly what you had asked. And it gave me, but what it spit out was these numbers are difficult to calculate. Is what it came back with. It says in the end, it said that some of these things are a myth. So 28 days in the Asian community, 19 days in the Jewish community, 17 days in white community. We have the 6 days, and then we have that 2%. I did ask it to calculate, and again, it came back and it said it's difficult to make these calculations. But I think the answer truly is.
Then she goes into making sure there's a Black hand tied in every transaction, all that other kind of stuff. She just said, do you see what this is what I'm saying? So the financial PhD, Dr. Boyce Watkins, who trashes me, dismisses me, denigrates me, waves his Black finance PhD, whatever, co-signs this discussion here. I admit I don't know what Dr. Lene's credentials are. I don't know what I don't know what her degrees are in. I don't know what it is, but it doesn't matter. If she's an economist, if she's a non-economist, if she's a professor, if she's a PhD, the method is a mess. I went to ChatGPT, and yet ChatGPT told her, and she used the word herself, that it's a myth. It's difficult to calculate. So you know what I said? I said, you know what? I said we can all let's all get stupid with the methodology then. So I went to ChatGPT too. Because I saw her eyes look up and she seemed to prevaricate a little bit. Like, well, what is ChatGPT actually saying? So first, my prompt, they asked me to clarify. I said, how much money does each community spend among its own? They said, clarify that. How much money do Black people spend in their community compared to whites, Asians, Latino? If you're asking about how much different racial or ethnic groups spend within their own communities, the concept is often tied to economic circulation or buying power. This refers to how long money stays within a community before leaving it. Here's a general breakdown. Now, here they go with that silly breakdown about the 16 or whatever hours. They go into the buying power. They go into some of what the differences are. And then I said, so what is the source for the claim that Black Americans circulate their dollar 6 hours? The claim that Black Americans circulate their dollar for only 6 hours before it leaves the community is widely repeated, but there's no verified primary source that confirms this exact figure. They say that the origins, unlike what we found with Two Black, not only what we found with Ebony Reed and Louise Story in their book, where they trace it back to Brooke Stevens and her work and her herself saying, I don't really know where I got it from, something about the 90s or whatever. This starts off with references to vague Brookings Institute, Federal Reserve stuff, but it says no peer-reviewed study or official report has ever been produced that directly confirms the number. Some cite a 2010 report from the NAACP or earlier studies from the 1990s, but those sources are not well documented. The idea aligns with general observations about business ownership and spending habits, but lacks precise empirical backing. Actually, that it doesn't align because there is no economic analysis from any published economist in anywhere that I'm aware of anywhere that uses this claim. And then it doesn't have it. And then it just goes into what we do know is the buying power and the Selig Center. Even ChatGPT is citing the Selig Center and Nielsen. So again, as I continue to argue, technology just enhances existing relationships. It's not changing nothing. ChatGPT is taking the existing white colonial algorithmic nonsense and plugging it right in. And then these Black experts targeting their Black audiences with what's supposed to be expertise are using the most unsound methodologies ever. It's oh, did I miss a phrasing? My bad. Well, there is a methodology. Their methodology is just bad. It's repeat what I heard from whoever, not read any or find any data to support my claim, and search ChatGPT, which they've given nicknames to. So it'll be like the claim that there was Black Twitter. They're gonna call ChatGPT, Kaijuka. Give it an African name. I don't know. I mean, all right, that was just wild to me when I saw that. That was just very, very bananas to me. Actually, there's one more before I get to what I wanted to show from Renee's show today, which again I just thought was just did I have notes on this one? No, I don't need to sign into that. Beyonce proves that winning is the best form of activism. Beyonce did what she has always done, excelled beyond expectations, and redefined what is possible at the 2025 Grammy Awards. She made history as the first Black woman to win Album of the Year this century and the first Black woman to ever win Best Country Album, a genre where Black artists have traditionally had little space to shine. That's why I advocate for something more powerful than DEI. I call it inclusive economics, a framework where Black and brown communities participate fully in the economy, build wealth, and become so essential that inclusion is no longer optional. So this is, I know this is one thing I would have wanted to speak to this, is that this is part of the mythology and the misunderstanding. Black people currently are already participating fully in the economy. They are just participating fully in the role assigned them within the economy. Menial labor, exploited labor, imprisoned labor, free labor, etc. Symbolic inclusion, create a Black neo-colonial bourgeois middle class, all of that. Like that's the function. The same way all segments of the economy and the labor force are playing their role. So we are all fully participating. And as we're going to come to, even so, the so-called illegals are fully participating. It's that we are participating in the exploited condition that has been imposed. So this idea that by participating, we're going to be the investors and the owners is okay. Black Americans control approximately 1.8 trillion in buying power, yet the median Black household wealth remains 10 times lower than white households. Again, at least they put those two together. I will give Newsbreak that much credit that they at least put the two together. I will note again, if we just click on this, we're right back to literally the exact same CNBC story that quotes, oh man, I thought it was, my bad. I keep thinking it's still sharing. But it takes us right back to the exact same story, the exact same CNBC story that I was just showing you a minute ago from 2020. So that's why I wanted to show you the way that this just keeps recycling and recircling. All right, so now I wanted to play, and this is why, after we've seen all of that horrendous methodology, after I've shown you yet again how the narrative is just regurgitating from a single source, after all of that, I just want us to see a little bit of what even some cursory, not even just cursory, I don't mean to even diminish it like that, but just even any level of study or research, what it provides. And this is from earlier today on Renee's show. I'll make sure the link again is in the show description. But let's just check this out. Positives of existing party structures or whatever. But specific to the point I was raising earlier, you stop for a moment to say, and I love the way you start this paragraph, Asian Americans, though oftentimes elevated by pro-capitalists. So you properly resituate and center the fact that who is promoting this nonsense and for what purpose. And you're saying that they're promoted as exemplars of the American dream. But according to the Center for American Progress, the gap between the Asian who earns the most and the Asians who earn the least is now the largest compared to all other major racial ethnic groups. You have the citation here for any of us that want to follow up from something published in 2016 with other. So anyway, I just wanted to, and then you point out that this discrepancy, also saying that researchers found that 23% of Asian New Yorkers lived in poverty in 2020, comparable to the rate of poverty experienced by Black and Latinx New Yorkers, and higher than the citywide average of 16% of all New Yorkers. So just again, for all this stuff about, pitting these communities against one another, having the poor Black customer show up in front of the relatively equally, if not more poor Asian worker, and then saying, but because your store is in our community, you're the one ripping us off, and or telling other poor Black people we need to be more like them to get out of it, and never pointing at the fact that as you started, this is all a pro-capitalist mythology and structure and reality that is being imposed on us. So I can follow up the question about parties, but I'll at least stop there for a minute if you wanted to say more or elaborate or respond. My bad. You got to check out the show because he was spitting for his response and the full discussion. I just wanted to, sorry about that. I just wanted to highlight that in this relatively short essay, it's like 12, 13, 14 pages. He does so much to dispel mythologies around co-optation, collaborative coalition building, and here around the mythology that Asians are the so-called model minority and that they've got all their economic stuff figured out. And he just cites one or two studies whose content is never addressed in all these other spaces where Black financial literacy mythology is being promoted. And he just shows you, wait a minute, Asians, they have greater disparity within their own community than other people. They are overall not doing much better than anybody else. The buying power, if anything, is just, again, the ability to enrich those who own the economy. It's not equated to any particular actual economic strength or power or wealth or material condition. And as I tried to point out, when you go to the corner store, they may own it, but it's the same people working in there all day. And it's not a job that anybody is. I've worked in little kind of stores like that before. I mean, not long, but it got a little wild today with the nothing but ass basketball league. So please do check out that discussion. Please do check out the book, The Hampton Reader, that we were talking about. And again, I'll make sure the link is in the show description. But again, especially after the horrific non-methodology on display in these Black finance spaces, I'm very much interested in following up on the sources that Sudip mentioned and others to really draw that point out more. But but was very happy to have seen that then. All right, couple other things here before I get to this Decipher thing. I'm really excited about. I've been somewhat following this, but not closely enough. Have over the years tried to support Kevin Rashid Johnson among other political prisoners. Again, salute to PrisonRadio that have this the on RedOnion Prison Radio Special Collection, Volume 2. This is, which is a look at what's happening in RedOnion Prison, where Rashid was or is. I can't keep up with. I think he's still there. RedOnion State Prison in Virginia, and where there's been a number of. Dang, I thought I had that pulled up. Incidents and all kinds of. Here, let me just pull up this other story real quick. One of the email groups I'm in shared this story from the Virginia Defender, crisis and cover up at RedOnion Supermax. Just how bad are things at Virginia's RedOnion Supermax on May 24th, 2023. And this story is from November of the end of last year. But in May of 2023, DeAndre Gordon deliberately started a fire in his cell that caused a third-degree burn on his leg. Gordon, who is black, said he had been badly beaten by guards at the prison and feared for his life. I didn't know any other way that I could get out of their custody besides to set myself on fire, Gordon told a reporter at the Radio IQ. Because they don't have a burn center in Southwest Virginia, I knew that I would be going to Richmond. Now, I know a lot could be said about the mental condition of people in prison and what happens, how it could be, debilitated, et cetera, and so forth, whatever, it could be diminished, whatever. But I have to think that anybody willing to do that is expressing just how bad the conditions are there, with the idea that you would set yourself on fire to get sent out of their custody. And he was not alone. On around September 15th, Ikong Eshiet, a 28-year-old African-born prisoner at RedOnion, also set fire to his leg. In October, he gave an interview with PrisonRadio and said that 2 days before he had begun a hunger strike. I'm trying to get out of here. I'm doing my best. I'm going to get this right. I'm going about this the right way. I guess with the hunger strike way, but if I have to, I don't mind setting myself on fire again. And this time I'll set my whole body on fire. The defender has been in touch with Kevin Rashid Johnson, a longtime prisoner and author who last December went on a 71-day hunger strike demanding to be transferred from RedOnion because he said there were no medical facilities in that area equipped to deal with his several severe medical issues. He eventually was sent to VCU Health, then transferred to Greenville Correctional Center, and is now back at RedOnion. Rashid wrote the defender that he was in medical unit at the prison when Eshiet was brought in for treatment, and Rashid said he saw for himself the severe burns on the man's leg. He had been placed in a cell next to me in the prison's medical department, where I overheard him talking with the prisoners about the series of prisoners, including himself setting fire to themselves. I could not help asking him what was going on. So I think a good idea would be to actually let them speak for themselves. And since PrisonRadio is doing all of that work in getting these interviews, let's check one of them out. We can hear from Ikong himself, I believe.
I started my hunger strike Monday, October 21st. Once everybody refused their breakfast trade, the CEOs came to my door and said, why you messing up the spot? This is a good spot. They said, man, you got everybody riled up over here going on a hunger strike. I said, I don't have nothing to do with nobody else going on a hunger strike. I'm on hunger strike for my own reason. So that after count, it was like 1 or 2 o'clock. They pulled me out my cell, but they told me I was going to get my burn wound. But I noticed something was up because it was 3 or 4 CEOs whispering. And they came to my door and told me cuff up. So I came over here to medical, and then Major Hall called and told the head nurse lady, Holbrook, that I have to stay over here in medical. I've been in fear for my life for even going back to the yard because at the end of the day, I'm not going to let these people do anything to me. I got 5 years left. They put their hands on me. I'm going to defend myself, but I'm not trying to get no more time, and I'm not trying to let these people kill me. You know what I mean? Try to say I was resisting or something, try to find a reason to just put their hands on me, especially while I'm in handcuffs and shackles. I can't even defend myself. So that's my reasons for being on the hunger strike. I'm trying to get up off this. Like, I'm doing my best. Like, I'm going about this the right way, I guess, like with the hunger strike way. But if I have to, I don't mind setting myself on fire again. This time I will set my whole body on fire. Before I have to stay up here and do the rest of my time up here, I would rather die before I stay up here because every day I'm dealing with discrimination, whether it's behind my race, my last name, or my religion. Just yesterday, they came in my cell after they pulled me off of my burn wound care, and the CEO, Jay Mullins, I wrote a red complaint on this. It's a CEO named Jay Mullins. He told me, like, you know we got to search your cell being that you're on hunger strike. So I said, all right, like, anytime I come out the cell anyway for medical, y'all search my cell. So they pulled me out. He goes search my cell. He started throwing stuff around, and he grabbed my Holy Quran, my Noble Quran, and threw it on the ground. So I started yelling, like, man, I ain't gonna lie. I said, pick my Quran up off the ground. That is my holy scripture. He said, if you don't like it, come off hunger strike. So I filed a complaint about that, you know what I mean? And I'm going to try to get a lawsuit behind that, like if I can find somebody that can help.
These commentaries are recorded by Prison Radio.
So again, I'll make sure the link is in the show description. I would encourage everybody to check this out, and if you can, put a couple dollars, I believe, through Bandcamp, you can make a payment, I believe, for this, or just go to prisonradio.org and donate there. But yeah, yeah. All right, so one other thing before I get to this Decipher piece here. It's crazy. I saw this somewhat somewhat following the tangent that Sudip was laying down earlier. I wanted to look up a couple things, but one of them, one of the stories that I came across in doing that was this story from yesterday from Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting. Media fail to inform about disastrous economic effects of mass deportations. And a couple things here relate to my own, narrow focus of work, but and beyond. But anyway, by the way, this is interesting. The first line is GDP. Well, they'll explain this, but GDP could take massive hit as a result of mass deportations. Mass deportations could leave many Americans without jobs. Mass deportations could spur a spike in inflation. Mass deportations could cost nearly $1 trillion. And those sisters working with Boyce Watkins earlier were in the clip they played. It was repeated again. They continue to come up with this they continue to misrepresent what the GDP actually is. So I figured I'd just pull this back up again. It's my oversimplification that I think is helpful to remind folks. GDP is gross domestic product. It is not a measurement of wealth and income, and it does not measure inequality within any given society. So when people say Black people have a GDP the equivalent of Mexico, et cetera, and so forth, it does not matter, because even if that were true, which it is not, it does not speak to the wealth, income, or disparities within the community. So, but also, and even though FAIR is they're using reality to make fun of what mainstream media don't do with their headlines, they're making a point that economists, mainstream conservative, even conservative economists are making, that is related to this point about GDP, that if you are deporting people, if you are causing people to lose their jobs, you're also keeping people from spending within the economy. And again, when people spend in the economy, they enrich those who own the economy. So as they say here, these are hypothetical headlines of the sort you run if you want to drive home the point that mass deportations would not only be a humanitarian outrage, but an economic disaster, which according to economists, they very much would be. Then the story here goes on to point out that the Washington Post and others don't want those headlines because they're, of course, part of the mainstream commercial corporate environment that wants to promote economic mythology, much like their Black counterparts were, as we were looking at earlier. And therefore, they don't want to highlight the fact that some of you may like all this anti-Latino stuff and deportation of so-called immigrants and illegals, et cetera, and so forth. But the rich are going to be a little bit upset. And as they say here, that by eliminating the spending of anyone deported, the GDP could, as a result, drop as much as 7.4% below the baseline forecast by the end of 2028, per the Peterson Institute for International Economics. So again, it's not that they're concerned about people, but they're pointing out, per my own concerns around financial literacy, claims around financial literacy, that and the treatment here specifically of migrants and working people and just people, period, that they are essential to the maintenance of an extractive, consumer-based economy. Fair continues here. They are not, of course, the headlines you run if your paper is committed to bending over backwards to avoid offending Trump and his supporters. So at the Washington Post, such headlines are hard to come by. In fact, if you look through the immigration, economy, and economic policy sections of the Post website, you will find a grand total of 0 articles that start since the start of the year with headlines directly addressing the negative economic impact of Trump's proposed mass deportation policy. As a group, undocumented immigrants paid $3.1 billion in New York state and local taxes in 2022, for example, a sum equal to the city's early education budget for the current fiscal year. So this is even so-called undocumented folks. They're paying a lot of money into just one state's economy. Anyway, I just wanted to show, and then this will be important for the show I'm going to end up having on Black Liberation Media Monday morning, because I'm going to, at the behest of a brilliant thinker, I was encouraged to, and I'll go ahead and I left it downstairs. Damn. All right. Well, damn. Anyway, I was encouraged to read Stuart Hall's 1978 collaborative work on policing and media. And so I've been reading it today, and I'll finish it tomorrow, write up some notes and talk about it for the show Monday. But one of the points that it makes is something I think it's an essay I actually read in grad school. It's eerily familiar. It's part of a book that I got, a larger work. I feel like this was Xerox for us. And I read it because in grad school, I used to advocate that Stuart Hall be made of media studies canon. And anyway, I'll talk more about that later. But the point here is that NPR, as I argued in I Mix What I Like, NPR plays the role of Fanon's radio alger in setting a context whereby the colonizer is meant to feel comfortable with their colonization. Hall is making a similar point about media and its structural relationship to other mechanisms in society organized for social control, particularly of Black people. And to see here that FAIR is calling NPR out again for letting employer propaganda go unchecked in discussing, again, the impact of deportations on the economy. Following some very unsubstantiated claims from the right wing that so-called illegal immigrants are a drain on this country's economy. And as they were just showing you there, the exact opposite. Policing the crisis, exactly. So at the Hopkins symposium I went to last year, that book was mentioned, and it was suggested that I read it for how Stuart Hall makes a similar argument around internal colonialism. When I got the book, I didn't see that was taking place. And then because I wasn't focused, I put the book down. I just don't know if people want the credit all the time. So, there's a lot of 00 Africans out here that don't want the credit. That's why I'm sort of hedging. I want to give this person the credit, but I'll check with them and maybe they'll join me for a discussion of the work. But Policing the Crisis is brilliant. And I swear I've read, because there's that, what is the section? Oh my God. Do I have even my notes here? But anyway, no, I didn't name it. What is it called? Anyway, whatever the section is on news, social control, something like that. It is brilliant. It is really brilliant. And this person pointed out that that the book was published 10 years before manufacturing consent, and they described Hall's work here as peerless, was the word they used. and they might be right, peerless in demonstrating the relationship media play in structure as part of the structures of social control. Yeah, it does. NPR does feel like USAID. So I think so. I'll cue that up for Monday to go along with this other piece on propaganda that I was using for my classes. But yeah, policing the crisis. Thank you, Too Black. That joint is bananas. All right. So okay. So before I wrap up tonight, I do want the other day, I was very happy to get the call from the folks who organized the 20th anniversary commemoration of what was called the Decipher HipHop block on WPFW 89.3 FM in Washington, D.C., DC's Pacifica radio station. And I'm just going to play like 20 minutes of this discussion as a bunch of us gathered on Zoom. Big shout out to Bushhead Ed of the Soul Controllers, a legendary DJ collective that got their start when Aaron Magruder was doing the Boondocks at the University of Maryland. But Bushhead Ed put this thing together, and what I just want to I'm very grateful for having been part of this, and it's wild that it's been 20 years, but it's that, and I don't know to what extent this part of the conversation will convey it, but I did want to at least share some of this, that there's so much talent. I know you all know this, but there's just so much talent that gets suppressed by this structure, by design. And then there's so many little efforts like this one. You all have probably been involved with something like this or will be, various formations. There's all these little cool little efforts where people try to come together and have some sort of positive impact. And what just quickly, some of the context, WPFW, before it was a part of the Pacifica Station network, it had become really a Black DC jazz station with some radical politics in there, but a lot of brilliant Black musical curators have been there. And when we showed up, you'll hear a little bit of the origins of this, but when we showed up, there was resistance. The Black old guard, much like in the history of hip hop, was not thrilled that we were trying to bring hip hop to this jazz and justice station. That's it, your jazz and justice station. They were not thrilled, and they thought we were not going to be part of the mission. And we had to go through a little struggle to convince them of that. And anyway, so let me just, I'll just cue this up here and enjoy it. We'll watch just a little bit of it here. And, let's see. That's DJ Hob. I got to skip it ahead here to where we actually get it going. So yeah, let's just check this out.
We was already grown when we was trying to get this show together. Some of us are already in our 20s, 30s, and so on when we try to launch this show and finally get it in the mix. So here we
That's
are.
That's Bushhead Ed. Salute to him.
Us, we got some years on. I see some grays and some beards here. And you know what I'm saying?
DJ Book.
So we've been doing this for quite a while, man. It's funny to me, or it's notable to me, that over the past couple of years, we've been selling a lot of milestone anniversaries. The 50th anniversary of hip hop a couple of years ago. It just so happens, if for those of y'all to remember, 2025 is also the 30th anniversary of Flavor 1580, and it's 1 year on the air. That launched MLK Day weekend of 1995. So, when you talk about the history of hip hop radio in DC, there are a lot of things that come and go. There are a lot of things that, pop in for a couple of years, they're blazing when they drop, and then, they mysteriously disappear. We can go through the whole list there. The X-Man on PFW. We can talk about Conan on
X-Man. Wow.
On
Wow. So what was the landscape for hip hop radio in
DJ
the DMV
True?
in 2005 pre-Decipher?
There wasn't one. We were just at the
DJ
we were
Silver.
all at State of the Union. We were doing all the underground spots. What was that place? State of the Union. It was one. There was a place on 5th and K under the strip bar. Because that was
And State of the Union was dope because it had you know, the picture of Lenin on it. So I used to always think that was pretty cool. And then, you know, my father used to be referred to by some as the Black Lenin. So it was like seeing, you know, it was pretty dope to be
popping at that time. Shout out to Kadeem and Chuck.
What was it? It was street. What was it? Something Wars. What was the
in 2005? All them joints was
DJ
done.
RBI.
The only thing that was still popping in 2005 was like people trying to find places to go. Like U Street still had like open mics. That's when like XO and them was doing stuff, and Capital City Records was doing their open mic. When Underdog and them was down there.
DJ Underdog,
Club
he did
Live,
a FreeMixRadio.
They were doing hip hop stuff. Bohemian Caverns was doing hip hop stuff. What was that spot?
But what about radio?
Radio
don't sleep on the FreeMixRadio.
There you go.
Wow.
Yep.
So that's Mazi Mutafa. He runs Words, Beats, and Life, and he's making a semi, you know, he's shouting out my FreeMixRadio project where I would distribute the CDs as a mechanism of underground radio. So I appreciate that.
Then you had FreeMix. You still had you had Morgan State. You had University of Maryland.
So Morgan was still popping. Who was the guy running? Who was the main dude on Friday nights over there at Morgan?
Hip hop. That was Kill.
Was that Kill at that point? Yeah.
Yes.
DJ Machete.
Now I was doing my thing on commercial radio, slipping in joints here and there.
Sure was. You and CeeLo. Yep.
And where were Soul Controllers at that moment?
At that point, we were off. We had done the show on XM. We had moved it to XM Radio, and we've done 2 years there or so. And then right as 2004, late in 2004, we were doing one of XM's Radio 1 channels, or one of Radio 1's XM channels. XM had a policy change where they weren't going to have commercials on their music stations. And literally, as soon as they did that, Radio 1 was like, well, I can't make any money off of these stations. So they dumped them all. So you fall into that space where Soul Controllers aren't on the air. Like you said, you still got Strictly doing this thing up at EAA in Baltimore. But and a couple of DJs that are on commercial radio, they can kind of sneak in joints where they can and not get in trouble with their PDs.
I feel like P Stu was doing the weekend joint for like 1 to 3 or something like that. That's all I can remember though.
And let's not forget PMD, Peter Rosenberg was in the DC area, but was getting fired everywhere.
Right.
Because he did not jive with the policies of a lot of these stations before he found his home in New York.
I didn't even really remember this.
That man was DJing at McDonald's, yo.
It was definitely spinning at McDonald's, and that was Morgan, the joint on 18th. He was up there spinning on weekends over at the joint. I remember taking a friend over there one day.
Wow. I can't believe that's not a joke.
Don't sleep though. That McDonald's was popping on the weekends.
Yeah, nah, for real.
So Rosenberg, the week that Rosenberg got hired in New York, and he was doing overnights on BLS or 97. I can't remember when he went to. I was trying to get him to be on my show with us at the lab.
How funny is that?
And he was like, "Yo, I'm down." I was like, "Great, I got you."
I'm gonna move this. Honestly, this is no disrespect, but I never really cared about Peter Rosenberg like that. I never knew him. He, had a career in New York that I've been at times even kind of critical of. So let me just move this a little bit.
On the radio? Nah, I'm good. But no, shout out to that dude because he was super hungry. He was on 3 stations simultaneously, got fired from all 3, got fired from 2 of them.
Wow, we still here.
Happening on the radio. So the market, I'd say, was really hungry for something along the lines. If you was a real hip hop head, you didn't have a whole bunch of resources. Remember, there's still not even like a ton of streaming available or social media where you can get your content from. So I think the moment where we actually got it on the air, it was super timely. What do y'all remember about that particular moment, getting that call sometime in 2004, where Ron Pinchback, wherever he is, shout out to that guy,
Former
calls us
GM
up
of
and
the
says,
station, yeah.
you know, we were trying to put something together for PFW after a long absence. I think it had been somewhere around 8 or 9 years since X-Man had been off the air, and they actually had you know, some program directors that were kind of hostile to hip hop for about a decade. So to finally get that window and that call and say, all right, we're going to try to do something. What do y'all remember from that time around, what was that, summer or fall of 90, summer, fall of 2004, when we're cooking up this game plan for doing Decipher?
Can I add a question to that? Because I'm sure some of the other people on this call were invited by somebody else.
Yeah,
I'm curious who the actual core group of people who were called by Pinchback are, who then assembled their teams for their shows.
I'm gonna take that one, and I'm gonna kick it off by saying 3 years prior, I have been, well, actually from 2000 to 2004, I have been in Pinchback's ear about putting hip hop on. I actually was out in the street and I took a petition and had people sign and donate money to me so I could go to Pinchback and show him that it was worth having on the air. That process took a bunch of years until 2004, when he finally said to me, hey, you've been at me for a couple years now, calling me religiously. He told me, you know, call me in 2 months. I call him in 2 months. He called me in 3 months. I call him in 3 months. I did everything. And then he finally called me. So I know that I was one of the direct contacts from Pinchback. I don't know anybody else. I never really understood how we all got involved anyway, because I never even knew about any of y'all running around doing the same thing that I was doing.
Yeah, that's the same thing. That's exactly my version. I don't think as long before, but it had been a while. Ron invited me almost by like, I just need to shut him up and get him to leave me alone. So he said, I'm putting the group together, show up at the meeting. And in fact, that's how Shawnee, Mark, and I got put together. None of us, I don't think, knew each other before that day, or not much. And Ron was like, y'all got a crew, you have a crew. These leftovers, they're now a show. That's how I remember it, at least, happening. But yeah, it was something like that.
Let me find out Ron Pinchback was playing Simon Cowell and put y'all together like One Direction.
I think he got lucky.
I've been talking to Ron as well, and I know that the same is true for Rome and Jamil and them, that they'd also been meeting.
That's Shawnee Jamila, and she is part of the crew that I, and at the time Mark Bolden, got put together with as the Black Academics. Our show was the Black Academics, yeah, right on, Vicky. That's who's talking now
With him. So I think a bunch of different folks had been having conversations with him, and he had us all in mind.
That's funny. I was gonna say Mozzie played Nick Fury for us. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he assembled.
I'm putting together.
In fact, I think Rissy Cat, I believe, was involved in those conversations as well, and I want to make sure.
Yeah, rest in peace. Rest in
R.I.P.
Yeah. So we all kind of got separated, and you know, obviously some of us had crews. Soul Controllers kind of had a crew, and when Silver, you know, you had some cats in mind for the lab. So everybody kind of had our little silos, our little fiefdoms that we were all building. And then who remembers when we actually took this to the programming staff at the station in this meeting and said,
"Yo,
right,
this
guys,
meeting
here's
was
what we're gonna do. We're finally bringing hip hop back.
It was
to
crazy.
WPFW. We're gonna start it next Monday at 11 p.m. Who remembers that? Who has good memories from that?
So if you can just imagine, DJ Silver's about to give us a story here, but if you can imagine a group of, again, most of us were in our late 20s, early 30s at the time. And so, I mean, it wasn't like we were kids, but if you can imagine us in a room filled with people, you know, our parents and grandparents' ages, who in some cases had fought, you know, to be fair, they had fought difficult battles over these airwaves, and for the ability to have jazz, to have Black sort of involvement and control, to have some sort of autonomy within the Pacifica. So they look at us come walking in there, talk about we're going to bring this hip hop block, and then we're doing something that Pacifica had never done, and really, I'm not aware that anybody had done what we were doing, where it was a block, meaning that each weeknight from 11 to 1, I think we were doing it. Something like that, or 10 to midnight, something like that. That every weeknight. Now I think they do it. It runs Saturday evenings, but for a few years it was 5 days a week, and nobody was doing that. So
it was kind of a tough day.
I don't have good memories.
I have no
good memories. Your man, I don't know who it was, but one of those older gentlemen, not respectfully, stood up and was like, "Hey, these young guys out here trying to take over and change up the game and such and such and so and so." And I remember Rome standing up, and Rome said, "Hey, yo, I'm a grown man. I'm 35. Y'all were 35 when you started this 30 years ago." And everybody just looked, and I was like, "Yup, Rome, whatever you need, I got you, bro. I'm following you." He shut that dude up, and that was
the phrase I remember Rome saying was, "This is going to be grown folks hip hop," and it was, kind of that he was, but again, making the point Silver is rightly remembering that we're not kids, we're not idiots, we're not apolitical. We're not whatever you think. We're not the versions of ourselves that you've only been introduced to on TV and through people like Puffy. I remember that was a big issue. Like, we were like, we're not him. I hate on him already. So like, that's what we were all trying to convey. And yeah,
crazy. And they huffed and puffed about other stuff afterward. But yeah, I remember him like just really saying that with his not with his chest, but with his heart. And it was just so different at that time. It was just like, yo, y'all got to stop calling us kids. Like, bottom line, we are adults. We have lives. We have mortgages and kids and jobs, and we're out here for real. This is our passion, just like yours 30 years ago. What's the difference between me and you?
Wow.
That was just, it changed.
What's
the
difference between me and you?
So
even as adults, though, I think we were the ages of many of their children. Like, there was a generational divide. And so there was a good bit of education that I remember that had to happen about their conception of what hip hop was, because at that time it was primarily jazz and justice, if my memory serves right. Like, it was a jazz station. And we were saying the community radio needs to encompass the entirety of the community, and young people relatively need to be at the table. And there was a bit of education about the difference between grown folks hip hop and what their idea of hip hop was, which was characterized by a good number of stereotypes around the culture and our generation more broadly. And I recall that in those first weeks, when we knew that a lot of people were listening, from within the station as well as externally, that we really pushed to have like hip hop education be a core part of what we were doing.
Except
I think
Silver,
it's
he was
cool to
always
look
playing
at,
booty
Blake.
shaking music
go
on
ahead.
Fridays. I said except for Silver, he was always playing booty shaking music on Fridays.
I was not playing booty shaking music on Fridays.
That was B-Dub.
I think it's worth, the way we were setting the scene with what was popping in DMV hip hop at the time, looking at what the musical landscape was in 05, because you did have on one side of the spectrum Yin Yang Twins, right? And then on the other side of the spectrum, you had Lil Brother. And then there was also a huge, massive influx of independent hip hop, thanks to the success of Rawkus and some other labels in the late 90s. So you had this flood of like West Coast people like Blue in Exile, people out of Canada like Chaos, and then all these New York people like J Live that were in DC. You had Unspoken Herd and it's so many other people that were not getting run, but there's this huge gap between, and also a very verbal sort of
you also had 3LG and Infinite Loop my man Headrock's crew that get left out of these discussions a lot. And I think that that's unfortunate, but I just wanted to throw that name out there real quick.
Spite between what would be considered the backpackers and sort of in the commercial scene at that time that was being expressed in a lot of the music. So it was an interesting period in hip hop history, to say the least.
But, you know, just as a side note, one of the things that I thought was really important about Decipher in those years and to this day was the freedom that the DJs had to play what they wanted. I remember several times me asking Hav, like, does Homeboy Sandman pay you to play all this music? And he was like, no, I just love it. And so, like, that freedom to be able to play what you love, talking to Machete and be like, yo, can you play? He's like, nope, number boom bap over here, bro. It was like, okay, RBI, you know, educating everyone about all the things that we've been talking about so far, and then add to that the ability of the Black academics to be able to do what was happening on college campuses on the radio, which is having conversations about hip hop, its implications, its impact, etc. And then you got Noodles, who brought a level of community engagement, comedy when she felt like it, and deep knowledge of history because of her own involvement in the culture. So we were able to kind of really be the best kind of representation of all of what hip hop was, from that booty shaking to that deep thought. Because it was Friday, so it was supposed to be booty shaking. People going out to shake their booty.
Right. I'd like to, I want to piggyback on that and say that I appreciate that everybody brought new music to the day that they were on. My goal for the lab was
The one thing that we didn't do that I remember I did try to implement that didn't get good reception from everybody on the block was I wanted us to agree in a rotating fashion to launch or focus launch new artists or focus on a particular artist and play them throughout the week on everybody's show, that we would agree to in a way to try to create a version of the echo chamber that mainstream media create by their incessant use of playlists and repetition. And folks were a little bit too committed to their independence to agree to something, even as we were trying to do what we were doing. But Silver is still making an important point here. But that is one thing that I would have liked to see us do.
We always played something new, even though it was by somebody that you knew. It wasn't on the radio. I played a B cut of Jay-Z, or I played a B cut of Redman. It wasn't on the radio. They wasn't gonna hear it, but you knew the artist. And I was able to bring that out. Machete loved Pete Rock. There was so much Pete Rock that we played that nobody knew about, but we got it out there. I even learned about Jean Grey from Soul Controllers. I didn't know about Jean Grey. They brought Jean Grey to the game, and it was just like, man, what in the world is going on? So everybody brought something to the table as far as new hip hop was concerned, and I really appreciated that, because there was a lot of artists that I learned from everybody else, playing them respectfully on their station, at their time slot. You know what I mean?
And I'm just going to say something selfishly, because like I said, I was on commercial radio heavy during that time. So this was like really my release from having to play all the shiny suit music day to day. So it gave me a chance to really be expressive in terms of not only just the hip hop that I appreciated, from the 90s, 80s and 90s, but, also the current hip hop. But even more so than that, it gave me an opportunity to expound on the music that hip hop sampled from. So I was playing, breakbeat sets. I was playing park jam sets, even, like New York club sets. People would call up and like, what's this? What's that? What's this? And, it just gave me a creative freedom outlet. And I think it opened the ears and eyes of a lot of the older PFW staff that, we're 20, 30 years younger than you, but we have a lot of musical knowledge that we're presenting, not just, straight hip hop that you thought we would be playing, but also expounding on aspects of the hip hop culture and the music that the hip hop artists, were borrowing from.
So like DJ Book right there, like I didn't get to know him very well or work with him very much, but the but I learned a lot from him, and the point that he was making was big for me back then in particular. The point that he was acknowledging, it was to I didn't know that many DJs who worked in the commercial media radio environment, but to hear and be able to watch them talk about the fact that they had to follow playlists and were very limited in what they were allowed to do, and then to come all the way sort of uptown, so to speak, to play whatever they wanted late at night once a week for free. You know, nobody was getting paid for any of this. So and to hear him talk about even again here that this was very important because the commercial media environment destroys culture and freedom as well. Yeah. And Bobby Hill, he gets a shout out in this discussion. I don't know if we'll get to it in the clip I'm playing here, but Bobby Hill absolutely was instrumental in bringing me to the station and keeping me at the station. And yeah.
It's like Decipher is always, I think.
Can I just say something?
Yeah, go ahead, huh?
I gotta go back to work, my bad. I just wanted to say I appreciate all y'all the opportunity that was given me just to be on the show and be part of that. Because like you said, that started, it catapulted, my part of my interest back in DJing. It started me DJing full time.
No disrespect to Hav. I just want, for the sake of time, move ahead a little bit to this last part here.
I think our focus was to try to expose people to.
And Hav had to leave real quick. He was, and what he did talk about real quick was that he had to go to Iraq. He was in the army, and then to do tours over there, and that's what took him off the station. But I always liked Hav is real cool people. Very good DJ too.
Nonprofits in the area that were doing good work. But I would think that Black academics would have been something that was embraced by the old heads that were suspicious and a little giving pushback to the whole Decipher as a whole. So I wanted to ask Shani and Jared what the response and feedback was to your program, because I think you guys were very different in terms of what you were doing with politics and your talk-based format.
Jared, I'll defer to you.
Well, I mean, I do remember even at the time saying that we had an advantage, a biased advantage with the station, given the way a lot of people were situated against hip hop and younger folks taking over. And I do remember I always took them as attempts to divide the block, where I felt like I got a steady stream of folks trying to say, we like what you're doing, but we don't like what they're doing. Friday nights did get a lot of call out. Like I do remember that. And I felt that we were being called to either defend or condemn. I also remember, there was a fair share of, we wish y'all played more music, let DJ Two Tone do more work. And so there was some, but I always look back, I think just personally, I just quickly, while I'm just talking, I just wanted to quickly shout everybody out. I really appreciated the whole experience, much like what Hav was saying. And when I look back, all I honestly think about are the highlighted mistakes I made. But I, given the way we were kind of put together, which at times I thought could have been taken a little bit shady, just throwing people together that don't know each other and expecting them to gel and put together a show, eventually doing that, and I think getting pretty good at it. I thought we overcame a lot as an individual show and as a block. But yeah, there was always a little bit of that tension I felt from folks on the station, for sure. All right, listen, I'll see if I can maybe make some more of this available, maybe play some more clips another time. But big shout out to everybody at Decipher and at WPFW and those who are still there doing Decipher. And it was a remarkable, I think, effort and something worth being noted, for posterity and whatever. And it was good to see folks and catch up a little bit. But okay, let me, before I get out of here, there's some super chats, some questions. Again, welcome Aquavelva as a member. I have not seen the 19 Keys Breakfast Club, but it's queued up, so stay tuned. We'll likely be dealing with that for Monday morning show over there on Black Liberation Media. But it of course, I'm sure will always be good to catch back up.
The Coach's top thought leader.
And hear what the latest is. I'm sure it's big salute. Cynical, thanks for the super chat. I've been trying to figure out the math of how many of us poor black folks make up this 2.2 billion buying power if you remove the 17 black billionaires in the US. So again, thank you for the super chat and the support. The numbers don't make sense, and I do try to go through it in the Buying Power book and show where those numbers could be coming from. But as they admit, as the Selig Center admits, they're estimates and projections. So one calculation was that if you took every black citizen of any age and calculated all of the money that everyone earned and then said that everyone spent every penny that they earned, you could get to that 2 billion. But that's sort of the point. Again, it doesn't account for what people spend on credit. It doesn't account for what people spend in terms of them buying what is available to them. It does not mean there is 2 trillion that people are sitting on and that could be collectively used in any meaningful. I mean, there are just so many the layer upon layer of flaws. So again, you're saying you're trying to do the math, but there is no math to do. It's not a real number, and it's not meant to reflect anything meaningful. It's not income. It's not wealth. It's not income or wealth disparity. It's just a number meant to help corporations organize their ad revenue. Manny Nile, I don't know if exactly what this is in reference to, but you all see my syllabi. If you are, if you watch my show and you've seen my syllabus. And yeah, I said Xerox Chitty Matcha. Back in the day, I'm almost certain, as I've just about finished rereading this section on Stuart Hall, I'm almost certain because it's not quite his encoding decoding argument. And I went back and looked up. So by the way, so I'll just do this now. So one thing, so I went back and looked at I Mix What I Like to see if I was like, did I cite this work? And I don't cite it. I only cite Stuart Hall for his encoding decoding work, which I remember was part of what I was saying in grad school. Like, this needs to be part of the canon. In fact, I'm sure I argued that was part of my argument in my comprehensive exams, that the Frankfurt School is cool and this one or that one is all right. And I learned a lot from this one or that one, but Stuart Hall needs to be part of the canon because of what he's saying about the where, oversimplifying it, the cultural interpretation that goes into messages as they're decoded by a target audience, but then also the culture that is in the symbols that are embedded in the initial encoding of the message, none of which was really considered by the traditional media studies model. So I was like, this is dope. So as I'm rereading this section in Policing the Crisis about media and news and social control, I'm certain, but we'll talk more about it Monday, but I'm certain that was something that was, yes, Xeroxed and copied and handed to me in grad school once upon a time. But I'm also sharing this because I was in one of you asked, Yipper, if I handed out CDs at the gas station, and sometimes, yes, I did. FreeMixRadio which is modeled here as part of the accompanying CD mixtape that was meant to be to accompany Mixtape Manifesto when I put the book out. You could see the rundown here is a FreeMixRadio relic of sorts. So FreeMixRadio, as I think I've showed around here, was a mixtape on CDs that was meant to be the blend of the mixtape and underground emancipatory journalism, where you got a blend of music and commentary. So as you see here, you would get Steve Biko, Dead Prez, Ed Robinson talking about culture and politics, Leah Bascom from a panel I was on. You hear Robert Allen, but you also get Skip Kuhn, Malcolm X, Dead Prez, Dr. Carr, Treble Army, Odyssey, Kemet's Tree, Pharaoh Monch, La Tere, from Rebel Diaz, Maimouna Yusuf, Hassan Salam. So I'll put the link in the show description. You can get, and I believe you can just download it. Frank Wilderson closes it out. I'll even play an excerpt.
I mix what I like. A mixtape manifesto.
Check for us in the streets or at imixwhatilike.org. That editing was the best.
Running away from the fact now that there is such an ill distribution of wealth that any form of political freedom which does not touch on the distribution of proper distribution of wealth will be meaningless. The whites have locked up within a small minority of themselves the greater proportion of the country's wealth. And if we have a mere change of face of those in governing positions, what is likely to happen is that black people will continue to be poor, and you will get a few blacks filtering through into the so-called bourgeoisie. And our society will be run almost as of yesterday. We hope to arrive at a more equitable distribution of wealth.
Wow. Steve Biko. Wow, that's crazy how active. I Mix What I Like, a mixtape manifesto, is titled as an homage to the collection of articles I Write What I Like, written under the pseudonym Frank Talk by Stephen Bantu Biko. Just as Biko sought to use his brand of alternative journalism to encourage a black consciousness among his South African audience, a consciousness meant to inspire a colonized population into spirited rebellion against an unjust regime, so too does the following suggest that the same journalistic purpose be put to the hip-hop mixtape. Welcome to FreeMixRadio, the official companion mixtape to I Mix What I Like, a mixtape manifesto. Anyway, that was a nice little. So yeah, and I would distribute those for free, and sometimes at gas stations, cafes, barbershops, beauty salons, parties, so on. So yeah. Let's see. Thank you again, Cynical. The replacement channel you're looking for is esoteric. Okay, I don't know anything about that. I have to look into that. I'll have to look into that for sure. Did you stop doing mixes? Yeah, I don't do mixes anymore. It was thank you. Appreciate that. No, I don't. I kind of miss it, but I'm just not, yeah. But thanks for that. Vicky, what's up again? Mazi, yeah, he runs WP, yeah, Words, Beats, and Life, and he does interviews on WPFW with Decipher still. Now some folks played the Eaton DC Hotel. They have a DJ booth and some floor space, bougie hip though. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I'm out of all the loops. Yeah, I held it from hours ago. Well, I also needed it as a reminder and as a segue because I did want to show that mixtape again. So yeah, Yeah, it was a blast from the past. But Biko was exactly, I mean, that's wild to hear that again. We need wealth redistribution. Otherwise, we're just going to end up with a black bourgeoisie and whites are still going to have everything. And just the other day, we were looking at it at 7% of the population in South Africa is white, and they got 77% of the land. Not fact. Stop making fun of my age, you youngin'. Get off my lawn. Fair enough. Yeah, a lot of economic data are estimates and projections, but at the same time, you still can measure wealth and income disparities. Buying power is connected to nothing, and that's it's connected. And peace to you as well. It's even less connected to anything than what would be normally found in so. Yeah, I used to my argument back in the day was bootleg everybody that signs a contract. If they're independent and underground, pay for it, buy it, go out of your way to support them. But once they sign that contract, I'm like, I used to be like, bootleg. So, all right, good people. Really appreciate you coming through. Yeah, no, we got to be clear on the methodology. That's So and that's really all I'm trying to say. That when you follow any form of method, and I don't know if you were here earlier when I went through some of it, but if you just if the people talk about buying power, don't check anything apparently. So they're either willfully willing to lie, or they're just completely. What did he say in that one line that I used to like? That dangerously incurious, I think was the phrase. That there's a dangerous lack of curiosity around where are these numbers coming from, and why does every single one of them go back to the same source, or at this point one of three sources, but really it's kind of even just two, and really it's even just one, because McKinsey's not doing anything methodologically different. They're just taking the same Bureau of Labor statistic numbers and concocting them into a buying power figure that the Black Bureau of Labor Statistics says themselves was not their intent with the numbers. So it's I mean, really what Selig and them are doing is kind of diabolical. I mean, they're concocting a number and making it try to look official by citing sources that themselves say was not the intent for what their work is, you know. Yeah, and in the documentary Wormwood, which I think is fantastic, you see what's his name, the investigative journalist that folks loved. Cy Hirsch. He says to the son of the murdered NSA agent, or the allegedly, well, because the documentary starts off was, did my father jump, or was he pushed, or did he fall out of the window? Jump, push, fall. Why? But Cy Hirsch says when he shows up, he's like, why didn't you? He was asking him, why didn't you all want any information about your? He was like, and he says the line, I think, was, "You're dangerously incurious," or incurious was the word he used. Which, but anyway, but that's how I feel it. Like, how can you all not be interested? And then to go, and then as Boyce does, to go in front of your audience, waving your PhD in finance or economics around, and not, and citing statistics and data that no economist cites, And then your own people go on there and do ChatGPT, and ChatGPT, she said it herself, said it's a myth. I mean, I know I don't always get it right, but I would be embarrassed to publicly show I'm using ChatGPT to answer a question that I'm supposed to be an expert in. I mean, come on, man. And then we sit there, especially those of us we tell our students not to do, like, don't give me a ChatGPT answer. And she's sitting it right there in our face. Talking about she gives it a nickname. It's like her little buddy. And it's like, so I don't know, man. That was just particularly bad to me. I don't get it. I don't get it. And I don't get how it just in our face. But then they would either, it's just wild. Then some of them want to give me a difficult time. And it's like, yeah, I mean, it's crazy. That's why, what did Professor Dave say? Epistemological, I don't know. Epistemological crisis wasn't his word, but we have a methodological crisis. Yeah, I can blame the American school system, but I mean, come on now. All right, good people, please enjoy the rest of what for you is probably going to be a long night, and for me, it's about over. So, again, this has been great. I really appreciate you all joining me and allowing
Everybody, shut the hell up. It's a lot that I got to get off my chest right now.
I mean, I appreciate that. Again, I appreciate you, coming through despite the fact that
Dr. Ball is a lefty, okay? Straight up. I never find anything about Dr. Ball that I disagree with. They don't want Dr. Ball out here. I mean, he take it a little bit too far in some things, but
even though I take it a little bit too far, I appreciate you, rocking with me a little bit. Because definitely don't want to fall into the trap of
some bitch ass TV show gonna make you some kind of hero. You think going on some bitch ass TV show gonna make you some kind of hero?
Oh man, that made the whole movie worth suffering through to see that, But until next time.
But this particular situation, out of many situations that I didn't hate, I'm going to have to hate until further notice.
Make sure you're over there on Black Liberation Media tomorrow for Ear Doctor Sundays and anything else. Please go back if you missed it and watch Saturdays with Renee from earlier today. Big shout out to her and Sudip. That was fantastic. And yeah, be safe out there. Stay safe. Yeah, I don't know. It's not my fault. It's not my fault, and I hope they see this. It's not my fault. Yeah, it was almost worth that long ass series. That line was hilarious. But all right, good people, appreciate you. Peace, as long as you're willing to fight for it, like Fred Hampton used to say. And I'll catch you next time right here.
I mix what I like.
What do you sacrifice? Calm, kindness, kinship, love. I've given up all chance at inner peace. I made my mind a sunless space. I share my dreams with ghosts. My way wake up every day to an equation I wrote 15 years ago for which there's only one conclusion. I'm damned for what I do. My anger, my ego, my unwillingness to yield, my eagerness to fight, that set me on a path from which there's no escape. I yearn to be a savior against injustice without contemplating the cost, and by the time I look down, there's no longer any ground beneath my feet. What is my sacrifice? I'm condemned to use the tools of my enemy to defeat them. I burn my decency for someone else's future. I burn my life to make a sunrise that I know I'll never see. Now, the ego that started this fight will never have a mirror or an audience or the light of gratitude. So what do I sacrifice? Everything.
I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like.